Hi, I'm Rhonda, and this is my boy Reese. Welcome back to A Shed Instead.
There's a place I have found in the shade on the ground.
Doing something a little bit different for this episode. We hit a big milestone, 1,000 subscribers. So I wanted to do something special. And what I decided to do, since I can't do lives over here, rural internet, I went through all your comments and questions and emails and compiled a list for us to sit and answer. And so Tyler and I sat down the other day and gave it our best shot. I thought it would give you all an opportunity to get to know Tyler a little better, hear him a little better, and hopefully get some of your questions answered. If we missed anything or you have any other questions, drop them in the comments below. We'll be checking them. Thank you all so much. I am so grateful. 1,000 subscribers. That's amazing. I hope you enjoy.
What's up, guys? It's Tyler here with A Shed Instead. Typically, I am behind the hammer as opposed to behind the camera. But I've been sent some questions that I'm supposed to answer for you guys. And I guess we can go ahead and get started. First off, regarding our locations, where are we about in Texas? We're
An hour north of Houston.
Yeah.
Southeast Texas.
Right, like near Lake Livingston. It's the second largest lake in Texas. Somebody else asked if we lived around Cleveland. Yeah, it's near Cleveland, Texas, indeed. Let's see, for me, I've got, well, this was asked towards Rhonda. It says, your son-in-law works construction or is just a jack of all trades? Yeah, pretty much do just about everything, but yeah, I'm typically like a trim carpenter by trade. I usually do like baseboard, crown molding, cabinets, stuff like that. It just depends, ultimately. Really whatever pays, frankly. I can do, yeah, I guess just about everything. I don't
He's
like
a jack of all trades.
Yeah, I don't like doing roofing just because it's really hot outside and stuff. But yeah, I can pretty much do just about everything. Yeah, Bill Barnes asks, Tyler seems so knowledgeable. Where did he learn all of that? I would say that I've learned about 15 to 20% from my father. Maybe 25%. The rest of it all self-taught. And I mean, even what he taught me, I had to sharpen and refine. Just because he taught me a lot about what not to do. No. My dad, my dad's also a carpenter, and I learned most of what I do from him. And he kind of had very much a go-getter attitude and stuff. My grandfather as well. We kind of come from a line of like farmers and things like that. People who had to kind of work on stuff themselves and fix things and everything like that. I'm not exactly from what is it they call it? I guess white collar.
Weren't fed with a silver spoon.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Is there anything Tyler doesn't know how to do? No, I can do everything. There's nothing I can't do. I can also fly. I'm telepathic, telekinetic. Countless things like this I'm capable of.
Let me ask you this while we're talking about it. What here at A Shed Instead have you done that you had never done before? What was new for you?
So there's quite a few things. I mean, typically like everything's going to be a little different every time you approach it, you know. I think it was, I want to say it was Socrates or somebody said, no man steps into the same river twice. For the man's changed as well as the river, you know. So like the toilet, it being mounted in the wall, that's different. I've never done anything like that, but
and it came out great, as y'all saw.
a lot of like, I mean, for some stuff that I don't know, I mean, I look same as you guys do, look towards YouTube for answers, and then I try to cross-reference with a whole lot of different people. Like with a lot of things, there's a million different ways to skin a cat, and you find what works best for you, what's most efficient, everything like that. But yeah, there's like the chain link fence I had never done. There's been a few other things that I'd never done before.
Some of those utilities, I'm sure.
Yeah. Some of the PVC pipe I've done before, but like the PEX I've worked with before as well.
What about running all that electric line?
The electric I've done before as well. A breaker panel I've messed with before. There's quite a few things I have done before. I hadn't hooked up a one of those tankless water heaters, but most of the fittings, almost all the fittings that you're going to come up against are basically standardized. So even if it is like, something fancy like the toilet tank that hides in the wall or whatever, the fittings that attach to that are going to be fairly standardized, whether it's like 5/8 or 9/16 or whatever. It's going to all be things that you can typically find, at the hardware store or local big box store or whatever. Rarely will you come across things that are incredibly specialized. There's some shower systems, plumbing systems, different things like that come from Europe, and they do things a little differently over there for sure. But for the most part, electric and plumbing works the same everywhere.
And you had done a shower similar to this one before you did the shower?
Yeah, I've done showers similar to that as well. There is, I will say, code varies between, depending on what county you're in, as well as state to state. So, what it is you're up against regarding the frost line, snow loads for roofs, the insulation. Some counties require 2x6 builds.
Hurricane straps. Hurricane season starts tomorrow.
Yeah, so here in this county that we're in, they're a lot more lenient on foundations and
pretty much everything.
Yeah, different setups like that. Whereas in other places, there's certain things that, and especially depending on the financing you're going with too. It just depends. I mean, it's a lot of overlap in different areas and stuff. There's some things that are incredibly crucial, some things they don't really care about. Ultimately it just depends on your county, basically. Mm-hmm. And then if you don't know, the county is a great place to start. So you basically go to your
assuming you're not within city limits. If you're in a city, then go to the city first. But if not, definitely go to your county.
Yeah, and then that's the downside too, is here we don't have a ton of HOAs or deed restrictions or anything like that.
No.
And so it's not very prohibited.
The
on that
benefits
front.
of being in a rural county. The further you get away from a metro area, like with Houston, we are, you pretty much have to get 2 counties away from the county that Houston's in, which is Harris County. The counties immediately surrounding are still going to have quite a few restrictions. It would be harder to find land that's unrestricted. But once you start getting 2 counties removed from a metro area like that, which is what we are, is 2 counties away, it becomes much easier to get rid of those restrictions and find some land to do what you want. And the land tends to be cheaper the further you get away from those metro areas.
Yeah, so that's definitely something to consider if you're looking to move out. If you're, say, somewhere near the city, or you want to get, a place like this, 1 acre, 2 acres, 5 acres, whatever. You, aside from just being on unrestricted land, you should also check with, like she said, either if you're in city limits, check the city limits, or if nothing else, check with the county to see if there's any restrictions regarding the way septic is done, everything like that. I think that's another question that's brought up.
Yeah,
our next topic brings us costs for costs and utilities, basically. The costs for everything. Everything I do, Rhonda pays me a big old fat lump sum of $1 million at the end of every week. And then the other costs, she all the parts. I just tell her what I need. So she basically foots all that. She's better off handling that question than I am.
We negotiated. He gets paid. He doesn't do this for free. And I do want to interject here and just say that when I decided to take this shed to house journey, before I ordered the building, I told Tyler what I was going to do, and I said, "Are you willing to help me with it?" And thankfully he said yes, because if he couldn't have or wouldn't have done it, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't have done it. Not without Tyler, because being a woman and on my own, contractors tend to want to take advantage of you monetarily, and I have Tyler to help me with those kind of things. Number one, he's my son-in-law. He's not going to take advantage of me. But number two, if we do have to call a contractor in for something that Tyler can't do or doesn't have time to do or whatever, he's going to help me figure out if they're trying to take advantage or not. So I have backup there. So thank you for that too.
Yeah, regarding land, the shed itself, what was the shell? The shell here in Southeast Texas was what, 40K?
It was like 44K.
That included delivery?
That was the base, which was like 22, and I upgraded everything I possibly could. Doors, windows, electrical, the spray foam insulation, the E-Tech AC unit you see in the living room, kitchen area, 16-inch on center, all those building things I upgraded, like literally everything I could. And it was right about $44,000. And that was kind of at the height of COVID pricing. I'm sure I could get it cheaper now, but it's too late for that.
Yeah, that's to be mentioned too. You discussed regarding 16 inches on center. What she's talking about is the Texas code for how far apart your studs have to be. So there's also, I believe, a state code that typically regulates those sort of things regarding like plumbing, electrical. There's a lot of places that are, like I said, a little bit more lenient. There's not going to be anybody inspecting your work or anything like that, but it's crucial that like there's code for a reason, and a lot of the time, especially regarding plumbing, electrical, framing, structural integrity of different things like that. It's all stuff that's pretty crucial regarding
right. And if I ever wanted to sell it, which I won't, this is age and place for me, or if I ever needed to mortgage it, which I won't because my whole goal is to be mortgage free, but you know, those things would come into play if you have to get a bank and financing involved.
Yeah, it never hurts whenever you're doing any sort of project, even if it's add-on or whatever. Like, even if you're not going to have an inspector come in and check everything out, do your work as though someone will inspect everything.
Right.
Because like I said, like typically they want things up to code for a reason. Breakers protect you if things ever splash on an outlet, God forbid, or whatever. GFCIs are there for a reason. You know, typically in wet areas within, I think it's 36 inches, 48 inches. I don't know it verbatim, so a lot of the times, like even I myself have to reference the state codes, national codes for plumbing, electrical. You always want to do things as safe as possible and in a way that's going to last for, the duration of a person's life, for or at minimal the product it is you're using, whether it's the breaker itself, your PEX plumbing connections or whatever. You want to make sure it's all applied correctly and done in a way that aligns with code, because typically, even though sometimes code and inspectors and everything can be annoying, it's done for a reason.
Right.
And typically that reason is safety and caution. So
with that said, I'm glad we don't have to have stuff inspected.
Yeah, for sure. That's another thing regarding like learning how to do a lot of this stuff, like regarding framing. A lot of it, there's some stuff like if you hook up a PVC pipe incorrectly, you forget to prime it or whatever, as soon as you turn the water on, you're going to see it spray everywhere, and it's pretty obvious the mistake
Figure it out.
And the consequence of that's fairly minimal, but there are certain things that can cause chaos. I mean, you can't accidentally, or you can't really reverse, like accidentally cutting yourself on a saw or whatever. There's certain things that you can't really rewind or anything. Especially with electrical, you've got to be extremely careful. Even with hot water and different appliances, the connection of them, different things like that. You can dry fire a hot water heater, and if there's no water in there, the elements actually warm up. They're designed to be submerged in water, so if they're not, it's called dry firing. It'll cause them to blow out. Sometimes a lot of people will get mobile homes, different things delivered. Prior to setup, they'll turn on electrical, and if you turn on your water heater before the water heater's actually been filled up, it'll dry fire those elements and cause them to ruin. You'll have to replace your elements before you've even had your water heater hooked up.
Right.
And so there's certain things that, like, no harm, no foul if you mess up some baseboard while you're redoing that. But some stuff, when you're doing it DIY, you definitely want to research. Basically to make sure everything's on the up and up completely. Abe Lincoln said, if you give me 8 hours to cut down a tree, I'll spend the first 7 sharpening my saw. And so it's incredibly crucial to spend, your first 7 hours sharpening your saw, basically. Make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row, plan, with the end in mind and everything. Whether it's, just doing a little bathroom remodel, or it's doing something like this where you're building an entire shed. So these are points to keep in mind for sure. Let's see, how much was the electrical upgrade package?
It was $700 when I ordered the building. My building is from Dirksen, by the way. I think that's a question later as well. And for that $700 electrical upgrade package, it was basically 2 exterior lights and 4 outlets with the associated wiring. And anything after that was more. As I said, the height of COVID pricing.
Yeah, there are, that's another one of those things where,
the service panel. the breaker box.
Yeah, that was added.
That's part of it.
Or yeah, that's right. It came with the building. It's
Right.
a 220 service, and so that allows for like if you're getting gas as well, you could probably get away with 110 because most of your appliances are going to run off of gas. But in some instances, most cases, like if you're going to have like a jacuzzi or washers, dryers. Let me think. The
What do you
dryer.
have that's 220? The dryer and the
Dryer
stove?
runs off 220 in the stove, and then
The cooktop, rather.
yeah, yeah, or an oven or a
AC?
cooktop. Yeah, in some instances, an AC might run off.
Does this one?
Yours runs off 110, but in some instances, there are some larger ones that run off of 220. And 110 is spicy, will cause you to step back a second, but 220 is the one that will be deadly. So be extremely careful when you're working with 220 and stuff. Always double check breakers and everything. It never hurts to be extra careful.
Right.
My dad told me the best safety precaution is a cautious worker. So, yeah.
Wise words.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see, what else we have? What were the grading, well, and septic costs? Did you get estimates first?
Yes, get 3 bids on everything before you do anything. Now, I didn't have to have any grading done here. I just had it mulched and cleared. It was raw land when I bought it, so I didn't have it graded, and I don't have to have a well. I have public water out here. There is a public water system. So I didn't have to worry about those. But the septic, I did, and that was right about $7,000, which is actually pretty cheap for a septic these days. I did get 3 bids. They were $12,000, $10,000, and the $7,000. But keep in mind, this is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, shed to house. So the size of the septic system is for this size of home. It's not for a 1,500 or 2,000 square foot home. It's, I believe, a little bit smaller septic system. But even with doing a smaller septic system, those higher bids were $10,000 and $12,000, and I went with $7,000 for an aerobic septic.
I would say the well and the septic are definitely something that needs to be done by somebody who's licensed, specialized. If you have land grading, land preparation, anything like that, foundation work, like if you're doing a pier and beam like this as opposed to pouring a slab or something, you could also an alternative option, depending on how much land you have and everything, is going with the place, just a standard rental company for construction equipment. You'd be fairly shocked at how large of a piece of equipment you can get with just a driver's license without
Right.
a commercial business account or anything like that. And you can move quite a bit of land with, say $800 a week. Like you can rent a large size, a decent sized dozer, that is, to
This
yeah,
is
really
correct.
really move things around for sure. But yeah, regarding the well and septic, those are things that would probably be best to, even if the county doesn't necessarily call for it to be, and in fact, that's the septic. That's another thing to be mentioned. Typically, even in the loosest of places, in the loosest of counties where you can do whatever, and it's kind of the wild west where you can just, hook up anything and be careful, don't get shocked. They have environmental standards regarding the septic.
Yeah,
So-
that's the one thing I did have to get permitted was the septic system. Before I could do that, I had to get my soils tested to see if I needed to have an aerobic system or the older conventional type system, which my understanding is if you're doing a conventional, the older type septic system, you can put those in yourself if you have the know-how and everything to do it. An aerobic system, you can't. You have to have an annual maintenance contract on those forevermore that has to be filed with the county saying this is your septic system and it's certified that it is maintained on a regular basis so as not to cause an environmental problem. That's the one thing they're a stickler on, even here in our rural county.
The difference between the aerobic system and then the standard system is the reason for the soil test and everything. They're checking to make sure that the way a septic, first and foremost, the way a septic's set up, it's 2 tanks, and then one holds most of solid matter. There's a bacteria of some sort in the bottom, kind of eats it, processes it, turns it into liquid. It then rises up, spills over into the other tank, which has another pipe attached to it that goes out into one pipe, that goes out into several other pipes that basically leach out into the ground. and everything. And when they do a soil test, they're checking your soil to make sure that your soil is capable of having water absorb that much water over time. So if you have a standard septic like that and you just run it nonstop, eventually it'll start backflowing because the soil itself can't leach in enough of that water quick enough. It's a really standard. I'm not sure when that type of design was first came up with, but it's really standard. It's nice because you can do it in remote places where there's not necessarily city sewer or anything like that. It's a great option for sure. The aerobic system, the difference between it is instead of the leach fields, you actually have a pump that goes to like 2, 3, 4, maybe sometimes more sprinkler heads that rise up and go all over the place.
We have 2 here in the back.
In later videos, you'll see us mess with those. Right now, they're currently probably 2-3 feet high. We're eventually, that was another thing asked regarding grading. We're going to have some land graded and kind of leveled around here. And that's another thing that we're going to be messing with is cutting those sprinkler heads down to level close with the grass where it doesn't look like, 1.5 feet sticking up out of the ground.
Right, trip hazard.
Yeah, exactly. So alternatively, in a place, a more metropolitan neighborhood, something like that, you of course attach to city sewer and everything like that. But overall, I mean, your overall outlet that goes out towards the septic is going to be, a same size, 3.5, 4 inch, depending on how large your shed is and everything like that. And then, that's another thing too that's got to be done up to code. Your P-traps, your venting towards the roof. Like I said, even if they're not coming inspecting it, P-traps,
venting all the smelly stuff out.
Yeah, exactly. Venting, getting the methane and all that gas out so you don't have the buildup and the smell inside your home. In some instances, I know like in mobile homes, what they'll do is like vent it out like right into the wall or up under a sink cabinet. And I know in some instances, I mean, it just causes the bathroom to stink like crazy. It's the best option, even though it is a little intimidating, to just bring your plumbing right on up through a wall, cut through your seal or the exterior seal or whatever, and then go up through the bottom plate, through the top plate as well, and then through your roof, and then be sure to get an asphalt-based, or I say asphalt, a tar-based rather, sealant for around the gasket that fits over that. And that's another thing that I think varies depending on where you're at, is the code for how many vents you need, and then the size of the vent pipe itself. You'll have to check with your state, but that's another thing that you want to make sure is on the up and up, because you want to be sure all that smell and nasty stuff like that gets on out of there. I think we may have had a video regarding explaining how P-traps work and stuff. It causes kind of a water trap in there and stuff like that. Let's see, anything special to get water and electric? No, not necessarily. Like she had said, the main thing is they want to make sure your septic or sewer or whatever you go. The septic is
right. The water was easy. It cost me more than I had planned because I had to pay for them to bore underneath the road to get the water from the other side of the street over to here, and I wasn't expecting that. But other than that, the water was easy and the electric was easy. It was just a matter of waiting. They would not start running the electric line until the building was actually here on the site.
That's something also to consider is the cost of just bringing your utilities from wherever you're at. Like if it's at the street, a lot of times they'll pay to get it to like the corner of your property, but they won't necessarily pay to get it all the way to your house, depending on where your house is.
Right. We're lucky with our electric company here. They give a $4,000 allowance to run your electric from the street back to wherever your meter on the pole is going to be. And they put a new pole up at the corner of the driveway, trenched and ran it all the way down, put up the meter and meter pole, which is separate. That meter I had to pay for separately, and that was right about $600. But as far as actually running the electric, it came in underneath the $4,000 allowance, and I didn't have to pay anything for that, thankfully.
Yeah, that kind of goes into the next question. Patricia Thomas asked, do you have to put the electric underground? I don't think, you don't necessarily have to.
I wanted it underground because I have so many trees. I didn't want a tree falling on an electric line, so I had to run it underground, and it was still underneath that $4,000 allowance.
Yeah, so she probably could have maybe doubled up. I don't know. I say that. I'm not sure what the cost of how much the cost of having it underground versus having it strung from poles all the way back would be. I'm not familiar with any type of code for how often they need to put poles. I guess you would have to have
I
it.
don't know, but the above ground's cheaper.
Yeah, at
For
least your
sure.
service. So that's what I was going to say. I'm sure she could have gone back further on her property if she had gone with poles that were
Yeah.
up a little higher. So when you are going underground, if they do give you an allowance for that, understand if you're going underground, it's going to dip into that for
Yeah.
sure. Is she also a few different questions? Is spray foam expensive?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely can be.
Especially if the builder does it.
Yeah, alternatively, it's easier. Or I say it's easier. It's cheaper to go with just the roll-up foam and then staple it up there. I'm not sure if she's gotten any footage of me doing that, but really simple. They sell a tool. Your standard stapler, honestly, could staple up that faced backing onto your cells there, your space in between the studs. That's another reason why 16-inch center studs are so crucial.
Right.
Most of your insulations.
Insulation.
Yeah, exactly. Is going to be cut to
That spray
size.
foam was an upgrade, and that's closed cell spray foam insulation throughout the inside of the shed. That was an upgrade with Dirksen, and just that alone was $7,000. It's a lot, but also if you consider that you want to do spray foam yourself, I've heard that you can buy the kits to do it on Amazon. I've seen people on YouTube doing it themselves with the kits, and you have to wear the hazmat suit and the this and the that, and it's super duper messy and hard to do. As far as I'm concerned, totally worth the money. We didn't have to worry about it. It was done.
Let's see. How high is who did the spray foam? Yeah, that was Dirksen.
That was Dirksen.
How high is the fencing? Around the front, it's 4 foot, and then around the sides, it's like 5 foot. We went with kind of a hog wire. I can't remember. It may be like 2 by 3 squares. That
Wire mesh fence on steel post.
yeah, one of kind of the more affordable fencing options. Chain link fence can get expensive. Wrought iron gets expensive. Vinyl gets everything regarding fences is expensive. For sure. Because it's one of those things where small numbers multiplied make big numbers, and so it may cost very little to do a 5, 10 foot, 20 foot section or a little dog run or whatever. But when you're fencing off an acre, 2 acres, 3 acres, it adds up really
My
quickly.
sides are almost 400 square feet. To multiply that 2 by 2 for 2 sides, that's a lot. Add in 110 for the back side. That's a lot. So I went with the mesh wire on steel posts, and I may change the fencing down the road or change some of it down the road, but for right now, I just need to get it fenced. So it was fenced.
Any suggestion for leaks around the screws in the shower and where the knobs go? It's really tricky. That's another thing. I mean, plumbing, I've done showers before and stuff, but I'm not a licensed plumber. So I know a little bit about code and stuff. Plumbing's really tricky. But the plus side is as soon as you're doing it whether or not there's an issue with it. I can't really say just blast silicone over it and that'll solve the issue or anything, because that's not always the case. I mean, it could be leaking from inside the wall, basically. So it's unfortunate. I've got a similar issue at my house. We had purchased an older home, and the shower head is just the pipe is just kind of loose in the wall. You can feel it, and all it requires is really some steel banding behind there to secure it to the stud. But it's unfortunate because a lot of times in those cases where you've got leaks behind those shower fixtures, you almost have to take that entire wall off.
Yeah, you've got to get behind there.
In some instances, depending on your shower faucet, your shower handles and stuff, you can pop off the little cold hot emblem, and you'll see a Phillips screwdriver or whatever. You can pop that knob off and take a look. Sometimes the leak could be just right there. Then you'll have to deal with cutting off the water supply to the bathtub, because when you go to fix it, you don't want to have to deal with pressurized water spraying on you. And then even when you do cut off the water, you're going to want to make sure that there's going to be some residual in the line.
Still going to come out
Yeah,
when you turn
exactly.
it on.
Probably
yeah.
like a gallon, almost half a gallon of water, depending on where the bathroom is, how close it is, if it's upstairs, downstairs, whatever, things like that. But yeah, you pop off those knobs, screw off the handles and stuff. You can kind of see if there's any leaks behind there or anything. But yeah, it's really tricky. Like I said, you don't want to necessarily just blast it with silicone caulking or anything like that, because sometimes the leak can be behind there, and all you're doing is giving the water, the chance to run behind the wall, cause molding and things like that. So
Don't want that.
yeah, definitely be careful with leaks and the shower, things like that. I would say if it's like a shower door or something like that, you put up a glass shower door that slides. There's screws that go in there. Those really easy to install, similar to what she has here. It's pretty simple. You pre-drill those holes, they tighten up in there. You'll get leaking there sometimes. That you can go ahead and blast with silicone. Hit it like crazy, clean up the excess. A lot of times a wet paper towel or a wet washcloth will help you get it off like crazy.
Right, we did have one little corner that tried to leak a little bit, and he fixed it pretty easily.
Yeah, it's one of those things you got to kind of troubleshoot. That's like, again, why I don't do roofing. It's just because leaks are so prone and it's tough to troubleshoot back and forth. Blessed Be Familia of 6 asks, how many acres is the land and how much was the septic?
It's just a hair under 1 acre, just barely less than an acre, and that septic was right about $7,000.
Teresa Fears asks, did you buy your land?
I actually saved for years and years and years. I had a savings account, past tense, and I did pay cash for the land. When I bought the building, I did the rent-to-own agreement through the Dirksen retailer, the rental place, and they're terribly expensive. The interest is horrid, and I only did it temporarily until I could get my old home sold. And the second it was sold, okay, maybe the next day it was sold, I paid off my building so I didn't have to pay any more of that interest. It really is horrid.
Let's see. Dorothy Beatty asked, what was the reason for an aerobic septic? We'd discussed that.
My soil.
Did you run into any obstacles getting the power set up? Do you notice the roof making popping sounds when the sun is out?
Yes, the roof does make little popping sounds when the sun comes out.
Yes, metal expands and contracts as it heats and cools respectively, and that will cause popping in your roof, especially if there's absolutely no shade whatsoever. It'll pop and crackle a little bit throughout the day for sure. Let's see, any obstacles getting the power set up? I would say your service entrance wires stiff as all get out.
That's hard.
Yeah, it's really tough to work. It's not like I think it's Romex that you use, like 14 tube, like interior wire is going to be way more malleable than your service entrance wire. It's a very thick gauge wire.
Yeah.
Let's see. Deborah Murphy asks, is the shed getting skirting?
Yes, eventually. I think we're probably going to put this front porch on first and then skirt what's left up the front, yeah?
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
Go all the way around.
What option she plans on doing for the skirting. There's a lot of different options, though. There's vinyl skirting, of course, like you'd see on manufactured homes. They also have an insulated vinyl skirting that has like an R value of like R7 or R8, I believe. It's vinyl as well that goes around underneath too. It helps with insulation.
Speaking of insulation, I don't know that I was able to show on any of the videos because I didn't really want to crawl under the house, but he did insulate under the house.
Indeed. Yep, finally. A brick wall is a brick stem wall is also an option.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing though that has to be looked at. So with vinyl skirting, it's already vented. It has like perforations along it that allow it to be vented. But venting the underside of the home is also something that's regulated by code. You have to have a certain size opening if you're going with a completely closed off system like the insulated vinyl I had discussed, or if you're like running your smart panel all the way to the ground, there has to be vents in it. I think, don't quote me on this, here in Texas I think it's like every 12 or 10 feet. It could be every 8 foot, and then they have to be an opening that's like 8 by 16 or something like that. But yeah, that's definitely something you need to look at per the county and stuff to make sure that depending on how you're doing your skirting, like I said, with the vinyl you don't have to worry about it, it's already vented. But if it's a solid skirting, you're going to have to vent it appropriately.
Like one of those
for the
veneers. I had thought about a brick veneer skirt or the stone look thing, something like that. But the smart panel is also an option because if you can put the smart panel on the sides and match your walls, you can make the building look taller, give it that optical illusion.
Yeah, definitely. There's also an option with like houses like these to do a ground set option. And then I don't know if it's done around here a whole lot just because of how soft the ground is and stuff.
Yeah.
But they actually dig out like 18 or 20 inches down, and then your house gets set on blocks still, but they're down 18, 20 inches. So the front of your house, where your porch is actually set level with the ground. Those are typically done with manufactured homes and houses like that because it's...
Then how do you do your utilities if you don't have any room underneath?
Well, so that's the thing is with those, you have to have a crawl space. There has to be a crawl space that accesses that space underneath the home.
Right.
I don't know that you could actually get one of these just straight up set on the ground. I think they have to have... that's another county requirement. I know for some counties, like I know with manufactured homes, they have to be like 28 inches off the ground or something like that. Like there's a standard for how high up off the ground they are.
Because of that crawl space requirement, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. For insulation and accessing utilities are typically ran under there and different things like that, for sure. How long is the home?
50 feet. It's a 16 by 50.
Yeah, quite a few of you had asked what are the dimensions of the shed? What's the size of the shed? Yeah, 16 by 50. A standard mobile home, a standard single wide mobile home, is like 16 by 80. They have some that are 16 by 72.
Or 76, yeah.
I think even
so it's shorter.
16 by 62 in some cases.
Right, shorter than a single wide, but the same width, basically.
Right. Yep. Let's see, what else do we have? What company did you buy from?
Dirksen.
Dirksen.
I went through a retailer who, works with the Dirksen factory. The Dirksen factory in Woodville, Texas, built this shed.
What are your thoughts on them? Your overall experience altogether after
Dirksen?
Yeah, after having worked on this shed for, say, 6 months or whatever. What are your thoughts on Dirksen?
The shed itself, I'm happy with. The shed build. It was the electrical issues that we had for that electrical upgrade with Dirksen that I had a little problem with, and the live wire left up in the storage loft.
Yeah, there was one spot where a live wire was actually wired straight to a ground, which is definitely a no-go. I mean, it shorted out, tripped the breaker almost immediately. That had to be fixed, which is, yeah, like, that's another one of those things that, like, can cause severe damage depending.
Yeah, that was a little scary.
Other than that, I think it's all been kind of nitpicky stuff.
I mean, like on the build itself, have you seen anything?
Not particularly. I mean, there's some nails that, blast through studs that they didn't, take out or anything like that. But that's stuff that you'll get on your standard on-site built home. Like
right.
From any old, I say any old builder, any home builder, typically. And it's the same thing with, even with custom homes. Like unless you find a really solid contractor who goes above and beyond to make sure, like, that the framing and everything is done perfect and very precise. A lot of the times, and that's the entire point of inspections, is to make sure that, like, studs are cut to the right length, that plates aren't just, nailed on there without the studs actually bearing any weight. It's all for the sake of structural integrity. Make sure the house doesn't fall down after, X amount of months or days or weeks, whatever.
I would imagine there's a lot of that, stuff like you said with the nails and those tract subdivisions where they're building house after house after house. That probably happens quite a lot.
Yeah, contractors aren't. I know in Texas they're not regulated. I don't know that they're regulated anywhere else in the country either. It's kind of a shame because like a barber, electricians, plumbers, they're all licensed, have to be licensed, and it creates a registry of these workers, and it's a fairly unregistered or unregulated market. Like with contractors, things like that. So you really have to be mindful of the people you hire.
Get references. As well as bids, get references on who you pick.
Two is a lot of the times it's going to be very costly, just because like they've spent a lot of time learning their trade and everything like that, and they're going to price it accordingly a lot of the times. So
cheaper isn't always better.
Yeah, I tell people you can pick two things: good, fast, and cheap. If it's good and fast, it won't be cheap. If it's fast and cheap, it won't be good. And if it's good and cheap, it won't be fast. So you get to choose two things.
That's a great thing.
But yeah, I've also heard that fast work isn't good and good work isn't fast. Let's see, what else do we have? What's the size of the shed? Where'd you buy the Dreamline shower from? Yeah, where did you buy the shower panels?
Lowe's. That whole shower came from Lowe's. But with that said, Home Depot also carries the exact same shower. I just went back and forth for a couple weeks watching their prices and jumped on Lowe's because they had a little bit of a sale on it.
It was all fairly modular too, right? Like
Yeah.
none of it
It was a kit.
Yeah, so the basin was separate from the doors, or
The basin, the base of it, and the doors came together, and those shower panels
were separate?
were separate. Yeah.
Yeah, so they all kind of had to be, of course, similar dimensions and stuff. But let's see. Did you use any insulation in the interior walls to help with noise reduction? Yes, we did in between the bathroom and the living room. Because when some people pee, it sounds like they're frying chicken. No, to kind of insulate a little bit of sound there. Otherwise, you don't necessarily have to do interior wall. You don't have to insulate interior walls unless, like, your husband's playing drums in a study, or you got kids who are crazy loud, or something like that. Otherwise, you typically don't have to. And in fact, in some cases, if you're just going with a window unit, insulation in the wall can help. Like typically, if it's just a window unit, as soon as you put up a wall like that, it kind of blocks the air off a whole lot, even if it's insulated or not. That's part of the reason why she had to go with a window unit in that
Bedroom.
Yeah, the bedroom. So no real need to insulate interior walls. It's a bit of overkill. It's not code. You don't necessarily have to. But again, like if you got kids who are loud, they scream, holler. A 12-year-old who just got a drum kit or whatever, then I definitely recommend tossing in some insulation in there
Right.
for sure.
Or like us with the bathroom right next to the living room. We thought that would be a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times, like in a loft area where kids are upstairs playing like crazy, you can go ahead and insulate that floor if you'd like. Of course, there's the cost of it, but it's not necessarily mandatory or anything like that, but it doesn't hurt in certain applications. For
Right.
Sure. Where'd you find the bathroom vanity?
The bathroom vanity I got at Home Depot, and I only got it because I stumbled over a ginormous sale. That thing was almost $1,000, and I got it at 40% off. So yes, I hopped on that thing.
Marcy asks, what will you do with all your stuff when it's time to tape and sand the drywall? Great question. I'm throwing it all out into the yard, getting rid of all of it. I don't care. I'm here to do drywall.
We're playing Tetris. I'm moving it around, and then moving it back, and then moving it that way, and then moving it back.
None of that stuff matters to me. I'm paid to do a job. I'm paid to do drywall. I'm not here to move your stuff, Marcy.
That's the hazards of living in it while we're working in it.
Yeah.
I do a lot of moving stuff around.
Definitely. There's drop cloths, plastic drop cloths. A lot of times help in situations like that, especially if you're doing like a renovation just on like a bathroom or whatever. You can put up one of those plastic drop cloths, blue masking tape all around, and it really helps isolate the dust and stuff, keep it from like getting into the rest of the hall, the rest of the house, or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, taping and sanding is definitely going to be quite the treat.
We're not looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Not.
Let's see. Shout out to a viewer from Tasmania.
Yes, I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. We do have at least one viewer in Tasmania.
That is hype. I've never been to Tasmania.
Who is this? Radio Jonesy Tasmania.
Jonesy,
Hello and thank you.
That is exciting as all get out. Little Ridge Farm requested a live interview. However, I have rural internet and cannot do lives at this time. I feel that. We are recently, I don't know if she's gotten video of it, but there is fiber optic coming throughout our town. Our current internet speeds are somewhere around 30 megabytes per second.
Bad.
Yeah, it's definitely quite the struggle to have to deal with. If you're doing Zoom, Twitch, any type of streaming, anything like that, it's incredibly difficult to get live feeds that are quality, for sure.
For sure, and that's something I wanted to make a point to let y'all know as well. I know typically on these, celebrating a subscriber milestone, people do live streams so that we can talk to y'all directly. And while we would love to do that, I don't want to subject you to blurry video, jagged video, horrible audio. It wouldn't be fun for anyone. So hopefully once that fiber optic is here and gets in, we can do lives. And Little Ridge Farm, I have not forgotten you, Mark. I appreciate it, but I need some better internet before we can talk.
Yeah, alternatively, speaking of internet, I think it is It's the same company. It's Elon Musk that did it. I believe it's called Starlink.
Yes.
It's a satellite
Yes.
internet that works really well, like for people like ourselves who have like really shoddy internet connection and are in rural areas. Also, people who do the van life thing,
Yeah.
they use the Starlink and have found really positive results. I think the startup cost, don't quote me or anything, is a little bit pricey.
It
could
is
be
hefty, and there's also a waiting list.
$300, $500. Yeah, it's not available everywhere. There's a waiting list.
Yeah.
You pay like $500 to start up, and then
Yeah.
it's like 120, 150 like every month. So it is a little bit costly of a service, but I have heard good reviews regarding that stuff. So that's kind of relevant to this whole rural living stuff and everything.
Gotta have internet.
One of the final questions, Carol asked, would you consider rescuing an older dog?
Yes, I did consider rescuing an older dog. Roman, my dog who I just lost, was a senior rescue when I got him. And while I wouldn't change it for the world, he did have some emotional trauma in his background, obviously. He was affected for the rest of his life. He was a lot of work, and but he did progress. He learned to love, and he was a wonderful, wonderful boy. But he was a lot of work. He had a lot of special needs, emotional special needs. So this time around, I have decided to do my last and final baby puppy. By the time this video goes up, they will have already seen who's about to be here.
And this puppy, I'm not sure if you've chatted about him or not. He's
I
a
haven't.
rescue, right?
He is a rescue, yes.
Yeah.
He's a pit bull mix rescued from a backyard breeder, and basically we're saving him from being a bait dog.
Fun fact, I was actually bit by a pit bull on a job. I was working on a privacy fence. I took
Well, that
down,
was just like 6 or 8 months ago, yeah.
yeah, it's been about 9 months
Yeah.
now. I got bit on the leg. Had to go to the hospital, got like 5-6 stitches. Anybody who tells you that it hurts to get bit by a pit bull is lying. No, I'm just joking. It was pretty bad. They are severe. But I would say that every dog's different, for sure.
I
Definitely.
asked him about getting a pit bull before I committed to getting a pit bull because he did have this incident
I'm
happen.
traumatized.
He told
Nah.
me it's not the breed that was that dog, and I thought it was a great answer.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't downplay the severity of dog bites or anything like that. I would say that any dog's capable of going crazy, biting you, or anything
sure.
like that. Older, younger, this breed, that breed, purebred, not purebred, whatever. I think a lot of it depends on how they're raised, the training of it, and everything like that. But yeah, I don't know, the thing about rescuing older dogs, I'd love to rescue more, but I just need the space. I need tons more dog runs.
And
everything
I'd love
like
to
that.
rescue them
If
all.
you guys, listen, if you guys donate, we need to set up a little bar down at the bottom that shows up at all times. It'd be like 10 grand for a dog run. And if you guys, I swear, listen, you guys donate like 10 grand altogether, we'll get a dog run set up. I'll start feeding them and stuff, everything like that. We'll start this channel will shift from a dog, it'll be a dog run instead.
A dog rescue.
Exactly, a dog run instead of a shed. And yeah, so that'll be that. Like as soon as we can get donations pouring in to rescue hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dogs.
If I had the means, I would rescue them all.
Yeah, they're definitely costly for sure, no question. I'm currently building this is crazy, a tank for dolphins, for rescue dolphins in my backyard. A large pool.
In your backyard?
Yes, large.
Can't take them anywhere.
Yeah. Large pool for rescue dolphins.
Please donate
Yeah.
to the cause.
Yeah. Continue to like and subscribe because rescuing dolphins is not cheap.
Is that all our questions?
I believe so, yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching the videos. Thank y'all so much for all your questions. We greatly appreciate it.
Very much.
We appreciate y'all tuning in and everything like that. I was telling Rhonda, if you guys have any questions moving forward, by all means, please comment them down below. I will address them every week moving forward, or however often we get them, whatever. If there's enough pouring in, I'll get to them every day. Just about anything. I mean, if I don't have the answer, I'll find it for you, for sure.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler.
It might not be the right one, but I'll find it.
An answer.
Anyway, thanks again, guys, and we appreciate it so much. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks. Have a great week. We'll see you in the next video.
There's a place I have found in the shade on the ground, far from all worries and troubling sound. When I go there to be by myself, only me, no one can guess what I came